Please be seated. Respected Your Excellency Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia. His Excellency Dr. Chaim Kit Rithi, Minister attached to the Prime Minister. Your Excellency Member of the Parliament, Ministers, Ambassador, Secretary and Under-Secretary of State, University Rectors, Presidents, dignitaries, honor guests, professors, faculty members, students, ladies. Without further ado, allow me to invite His Excellency Dr. Chaim Kit Rithi, Minister attached to the Prime Minister, to deliver his welcome speech. Your Excellency, please.
Hello. Your Excellency, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, it's a great pleasure to have you all here with us today. The Royal University of Phnom Penh, the governance body, student, professor, and friends of IUPP are very proud to welcome you on this beautiful campus in Phnom Penh. For those of you of my age with a gray hair, Dr. Tun Dr. Mahathir need no introduction. We know you, sir. You were a medical doctor. You came to politics later. You started your career as a great communicator at King Edward VII School in Singapore. And I know by reading your speech, reading many of your books, and I know also, if I can quote you, that medicine is important. As a doctor, you can cure political, economical, and social diseases. And you said also that when you run a country, it's not about debate in the parliament, but you need activities and intervention. I believe that you may have been also inspired by the great German pathologist, Rudolf Virchow, who said that politics is nothing else than medicine on a grand scale. So if you allow a little comparison, that like yourself, I went to the King Edward VII Medical School, who turned medical school of a national university. And also I believe that as a doctor, we can put our life in the service of people. But the comparison stops here for me. Policy, it takes good leadership, it takes integrity, and it takes a vision of how education can bring a country to the next level, and you have achieved it. So the last 3 points, point number 3 is that you have promoted these famous Asian values in the early 80s and 90s, along also with the late Lee Kuan Yew. Myself, being brought up in Western values, it was a wake-up call. I realize that not all values are universal. A lot of questions will come to you probably later. And then Asian values will head aloud yourself to guide the policy to develop Malaysia and to bring Malaysia as it is today. And the last point here is that what is remarkable for you, sir, you don't have enough of ASEAN and all the world. This time here, you face a new emerging world order. When you were talking about Asian values in the early 80s and 90s, there were a kind of a conditioned world order also. You break that taboo. And now here you are again in this hall. Many students, they're young, they're hungry for knowledge, and they're looking highly to somebody who had been a giant of politics and geopolitics in Malaysia, ASEAN, and in the world. It's a great honor for me to introduce you to the audience today, and I will take no more time, and I will make sure that the next 1 hour something, you will have all the good questions that you like to answer. Your vision, your wisdom will certainly impact on the future generation of young Cambodians, especially those who aspire to serve. Thank you, sir, for being here. Welcome to the Royal University of Phnom Penh. To put this session into context before we start taking questions from the floor. So the floor is yours, sir.
Your Excellency, the Minister attached to the Prime Minister, Excellencies, academics, students, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to say thank you very much to the Royal University of Phnom Penh for this opportunity to meet so many students or young people in Cambodia. I have been here 3 times before, and each time that I come here, Phnom Penh has changed. Now, of course, it is like any other big city with many high-rise buildings. And I see that this is a very busy city with many shops and many people going around, obviously shopping. This is a sign of prosperity. And I believe that this is due to your hard-working people, highly skillful people who have contributed towards the rebuilding of Phnom Penh and Cambodia. I'm glad to be back here, and I'm glad also to have this opportunity to meet the students and the faculty of the Royal University, and I hope that in the course of our question and answer, I would be able to explain whatever it is that you want me to explain. I thank you.
Thank you. So let's take the first 2 or 3 questions from the floor. Let me remind you that this is an open session for student RUPP. We like to hear a voice from the youth. Journalists, please restrain yourself. You can talk maybe after. I give the floor to the students. Okay, so let's start with the lady there in the black. When you come to talk, introduce yourself briefly. What major you are in, and your question. And a good question is a short question, a short sentence that ends with a question mark, please. So be clear, right to the point.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. It's a very great honor to be interacting with you in person. And my name is Vichika, a second year student from the Department of International Studies. And I have a question for you. And my question is, from your point of view, how is ASEAN going to exercise its centrality role in regards to balancing itself between superpowers like the US as well as China? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get a second question. Yes, please. Gentleman with the white shirt. Introduce yourself and your major, what you're doing here.
My high respect to His Excellency Tun Dr. Mahathir, Prime Minister of Malaysia. My name is Lim Chai. I'm from the Department of International Study, Royal University of Phnom Penh. It's my great honor to have one question for Your Excellency. So given the status quo of the geopolitical tension in our ASEAN region and the disputed area like South China Sea, so it seems to put a question on the ability of ASEAN in maintaining the regional peace and security. So in this context, from your perspective, will ASEAN still be effective in handling the regional security, and how should it act? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last question for this first sequence. Okay, please. Yeah. Come to the mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, His Excellency and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sukontia Poti Pisai. I'm from Faculty of Education. My question is, what initiative were you most proud of in your previous premiership back in 1981? And would you like to continue that? Thank you.
Can you repeat the question and be shorter, please? Right to the point. Come back, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. So this is the last one, and then Tun Dr. Mahathir preferred to take one question at a time, but just go for this one.
Yeah. I would like to know what initiative were you most proud of?
Okay, thank you.
Well, Cambodia, of course, is a member of the ASEAN regional grouping. The reason why we have a regional grouping is because each one of us is very weak. And when we go for international negotiation, if you go alone, then you don't have much weight or strength in your arguments. It's far better if you go, after having discussion with the ASEAN group, go as a group and talk as representing all the countries, all the 10 countries of ASEAN. Today, ASEAN is one of the very few regional groupings that have survived. While many say that ASEAN is not as active as before, but the fact remains that it has survived, and we have been in contact with each other all the time. This brings us together and increases our understanding with each other. And that contributes, of course, to peace and stability in the ASEAN region. If you look at many regions in the world, you will find that ASEAN is one of the few peaceful and stable regions in the world. And because we achieve this because we work together. So ASEAN is still very relevant, and I hope that it will continue to strengthen itself with greater cooperation between the member countries of ASEAN. Then, China claims that the South China Sea belongs to China. That is China's claim. But what is important is whether there is free navigation through the seas, through the Straits of Malacca and the South China Sea. Up to this time, China has not tried to stop any ships sailing through these two seas. And at the moment, although there may be some warships coming into this area, but it is not in the form of a fleet that is with some intention of attacking any country. So the South China Sea is today even more secure because it is a passage for ships going to and from China. China needs the free passage in the South China Sea as well as the Straits of Malacca. And China must guarantee that there is this free navigation through the seas because it benefits China. And when it benefits China, it also benefits the ASEAN countries. About how the initiative that I introduced when I became Prime Minister in 1981, well, there were many initiatives. Among them is, of course, the Look East policy, the decision to be friendly with all countries, the rejection of war as a means of settling disputes, the preference for negotiation, arbitration, or a court of law wherever there is conflict. These have contributed towards the peace and stability of the ASEAN countries. And because of peace and stability, most of the ASEAN countries have been able to grow much faster than other countries which gained independence at the time we gained our independence. So the initiative that I introduced is not something unusual. It is the wish of everyone, I think, to have the region peaceful and stable so that we can live a good life and enjoy growth and prosperity in our countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tun Mahathir. Thank you. May we have the next question? So we're going to take one by one. Yes, the gentleman with the blue shirt there.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Dr. Mohamad Mahathir. My name is Tun Madine, and I'm a fourth-year student from Department of International Studies. I'm very honored to ask you one question, and my question is regarding the rivalry and the trade war between China and the United States. What kind of foreign policy do you think that ASEAN countries should pursue to maintain its neutrality? Thank you.
Thank you.
Trade wars are not constructive. They don't contribute much towards the betterment or the growth of the economies of the countries concerned. Unfortunately, trade wars by big powers also impact on the smaller countries. So we are suffering because of this trade war within the US and China. So what can we do? Well, first thing, of course, is in managing economies, we need to have good access to the markets of the world. If we cannot have the access to other markets, ASEAN itself can provide a good market for the products of ASEAN countries. I think that ASEAN should come together to decide on industrialization so that we can produce our needs largely by ourselves. In the process, of course, we will acquire the technologies that are driving countries of the world to develop and to grow. I think that the trade war is a waste of time, a waste of money, and very unproductive. I hope that both China and the US should see sense and stop these, well, silly things and try and negotiate or have arbitration or settle things in a court of law. After all, these are the people, especially the US, has always been urging us to accept the rule of law. But these trade wars are not in accordance with the rule of law. So I hope that those who preach democracy and rule of law should abide by the same rules that they propose for other countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please. Yes, please. I think one at a time. If you have one, you ask one question, please allow other people to have a chance to ask a question. Please.
Yes. Good afternoon, His Excellency. My name is Manint. I just graduated from social work degree. And my question is, as we know, Cambodia is one of Asian countries that have the highest number of youth. And youth is the most powerful to help Cambodia development. So I would like to hear from you, what are some advice that you can give to Cambodia youth? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the most important thing for the youth of Cambodia, as for the youth of Malaysia and other countries, is to be aware of what is happening around them and to understand what is happening around them, because they will see a lot of wrong things being done. When they see something wrong being done, when they grow old and take over the helms of their countries, they should not do the things that they know is not good for their country or for other countries. That is the first thing that youth must have. Good knowledge and some analytical skill in understanding what is happening around them. Beyond that, of course, youth must build good value system. Good values determine whether you will succeed or fail, and whether you will succeed. So you must cultivate good values. What are good values? I think one of the most important thing is to have sympathy for others, to be considerate, not to resort to violence and kill people in order to achieve your objectives. So basically, we should not regard war as a means of settling conflicts. War is primitive. It is suitable for the countries of 2,000 years ago when they had no better communication. Today, with good communication, with leaders being able to meet peacefully all the time, we should not resort to war. Instead, we should try to solve all our problems and conflicts through peaceful negotiation, through arbitration, and through the resort to a court of law. That is the way that we should think. And if we cultivate that in Cambodia and in the other ASEAN countries, we can surely expect that this region will remain peaceful and there will be less violence so that we can have all a better life. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor, for sharing your philosophical view for the action of youth and your wisdom. May we have the next question, please? Yes, gentleman with the glasses over there. Yeah.
Good afternoon, His Excellency and everybody who attend here. So my question for you is, one of the first things that you did when you came to power the second time was to cut a Belt and Road project. So everybody thought that the act was in fact to curb the influence of China in Malaysia. But my question is, was it true or not?
Not sure. Not sure we get your question. Can you be clearer, shorter, and articulate?
Yeah. One of the first acts when you came to power the second time was to cut one Belt and Road project in your country. And everybody thought that this act is to curb the influence of China in Malaysia. So the question is, was it true or not?
Well, as you know, this party, my party now, defeated the government. Where did the government lose to us? Because for 60 years, this government has never lost any election. But this time it lost because of what it did. It puts the country into a very difficult position where it owes so much money that it would be bankrupted unless the finances are better managed. So the people want to change the government because they see the government going the wrong way. So when we took over, the first thing we have to do, of course, is to correct the wrong things that were done by the previous government. And among the wrong things done by the previous government is to enter into contracts which are very, very big and involves borrowing huge sums of money. We could not afford to have this project because it costs too much. So when we took over, we would like to have cancel the project. But the contract is there. If you cancel the project, you will have to compensate the contractors for cancelling the project. And the compensation is very expensive, running into billions of ringgit. So we negotiated with the contractors to reduce the cost. And fortunately for us, we were able to reduce the cost by 20 billion Malaysian ringgit. I don't know how much real or your currency is for 20 billion, but I understand that $1 is about 4,000. So you can imagine how much money we save. That is simply because, not because we are angry with China or their companies, but because we cannot afford. We don't have the money. We can do the railway some other time when we have the money. But the best solution is to slow down, reduce the cost, and save a lot of money for the country. At the moment, we had a debt entered into by the previous government amounting to 1,100 billion ringgit. It would have bankrupted us unless, of course, we manage the loans carefully so as not to put us into a very difficult financial situation. So, I mean, that is a result of negotiation. We didn't go to war. We didn't fight anybody. We were not violent. We sat down and discussed with the Chinese contractor and also the Chinese government in a very civilized way. Thank you.
Thank you. So what we can learn from you, Doctor, is number one, use diplomatic skills to negotiate at the table. Don't start a trade war, don't be violent, and put the interests of your country first in your negotiation for business and debt. Thank you. Next question. Yeah, far in the back there. Yes, can't see you. Okay.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. My name is Nonsanang Semani. I'm a third-year student at Department of International Studies. Mr. Prime Minister, my question is, why did Malaysia desire to conclude the RCEP agreement with just 13 countries instead of 16 countries? Thank you.
Which country? Which agreement?
RCEP agreement, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership.
I will answer. Yeah. Well, when you enter into agreements, it must be something that is good for you. Otherwise, you don't enter into agreements. I suppose it's a very general answer, maybe not specific. In the case of the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, at one time it was proposed by America. There were 29 chapters in the agreement, and all of them were in favor of the big companies of America. And because of that, we refused to join. But this time around, America is not in. We have agreed to join, but there are certain provisions which we have to study very carefully so that we will not lose out because of our commitment under the agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Next question, please. Yes. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. My name is Kun Chan Kanitha. I am a fourth-year student from the Department of International Studies. I have a question for you regarding that. Do you think that ASEAN as an association and ASEAN nations are too involved in the current geopolitical and economic rivalry between the superpowers? Thank you.
Yeah, can you repeat the last part and speak slowly? We're not racing, we're thinking.
Again, my question is,
slowly, please.
Do you think that ASEAN as an association and ASEAN nations are too involved in the current geopolitical and economic rivalry between the superpowers? Thank you.
Well, the ASEAN grouping, right?
ASEAN Association and ASEAN nations.
ASEAN Association. Well, of course, any association will have to focus on what matters most to the association. Now, the ASEAN grouping is a grouping of weak countries, not powerful countries. We have to look after our interests. Sometimes when we enter into agreements, we find that we will lose out if we enter into such agreement. And therefore, ASEAN is always focused on the improvement in the condition of the ASEAN countries, their ability to grow and to become more prosperous. That is our main objective whenever we have any agreements or negotiation with other countries. That is our stand, and I think that is also the stand of all other associations. Europe, for example, thinks about Europe, NAFTA or North America Free Trade Agreement between Canada, Canada, US and Mexico. They focus on their interests. So we must focus on our own situation and make sure that whenever we enter into any agreement, the agreements are good for our own well-being. Thank you.
Just a second. Dr. Mahathir would agree with me that the last 6 or 7 questions, 8, come from the Department of International Studies. And this student make me feel that I lied to you by telling you that IUP is a comprehensive university. We like to have questions, you agree with me, from students from mathematics, from philosophy, from physics, from engineering, from arts. That's IUPP, right, Mr. Rector? Okay, next question.
Good afternoon, His Excellency Mohamad Mahathir. My name is Asarios. I'm the official of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I have a really, it's my honor and my pleasure to being here and listen to your wonderful speech. And I have a question. I would like to know what is your philosophy of governing public service? And what does public service personally mean to you? And how can you keep your leadership relevant as the second term of prime ministership in Malaysia? Thank you.
Dr. Mahathir here will take this question because you look young. You're not a student, but you look young, so it's okay, Doctor.
Thank you. Well, when you become the government of a country, naturally you have to work for that country. It is all about serving the public. That's why we call it a public service. And when you say it is a public service, it must serve the public. And in the case of Malaysia, when we became independent from the British, which was a colonial power. They ruled the country for their own good, not for our good. Once we attain independence and rule our own country, we have to think about our people. What do they want? Well, obviously, they want to be better off. They want to be more prosperous. They want to be proud of their country. So the government has to work hard to find how they can strengthen, especially the economy of the country, reduce unemployment, create new industries, and generally prosper the country. Once you do that, the people will continue to support you. The moment you forget and you abuse the power that you have, they will throw you out. And that's what happened to the last government of Malaysia. The people supported that party as a government for 61 years. But when they went astray, when they forgot their duties to the public, they were thrown out by the public. That is the way things should be. Because when you have a government that doesn't care for the people, it shouldn't be allowed to continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. More question? Yes, please. That. Yes. Yeah, you, that lady. Yeah. Hopefully not from international studies.
Good afternoon, His Excellency. My name is Ian Srele. I'm from Department of English, and it's my great honor to be given an opportunity to ask you a question. And my question is, should Asian community democratize their country based on American or Western standard, or localize the democracy based on their country current situation? Thank you.
Asian values.
where the world is getting smaller. Countries which used to be far away from us are now very close to us. So we will be affected by what they do. But at the same time, they should be affected by what we do. We should be proud of our own culture, our own history, background, because our civilization, especially the Cambodian civilization, is much older than many of the Western civilization. Certainly it is older than the American civilization. America is a very young country. Compared to Cambodia. You know, here you have such relics like all the great temples here. These were built long before there was any America at all. So why are you not proud of your own culture, your own ways of living, of thinking? But today, because of easy communication, you can see what's happening in other countries. Sometimes you copy them, which is okay if the things are good. I think their systems of government, democracy, for example, is very good. We should copy that. But when they decided that men should marry men, you want to follow that? Women marry women. You know what would happen if you adopt that culture? There'll be only one generation. Because neither the man who marries men can have a child, nor the woman who marries a woman can have a child. Let them do it. We don't do such thing. Or for that matter, you know, before when I was a small boy, if I wear a sarong that is torn, people will laugh at me. But nowadays, you spend so much money buying torn clothing because that is fashionable there. Why should you copy? You should wear normal dress. Just imagine if you wear your Cambodian dress all torn up, how will you look? But of course you wear trousers which are torn. So while we should learn from others, at the same time we must be wise enough to reject what is not positive, what is not going to contribute to our own well-being. So here we have to have a critical mind and not just copy everything that comes from other countries because they come from those developed countries. Thank you.
I think they will remember your advice, Dr. Mahathir. Okay, next question. So we move from international studies, somebody from English. I hope that from chemistry, from physics, you have a brain to think. Somebody had to talk about geopolitics of rare earth, geopolitics 5G. So engineers, chemistry, any question? Yes, there, with a polo, white polo.
Hello. Thank you. First of all, good evening and good afternoon. His Excellency Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia. And good afternoon, everybody here. I'm not good at English. Yeah. My name is Boden. I'm the beginning year PhD student in Royal Academy of Cambodia, but not study yet. Yeah. My question, number one, what do you think of one belt, one road of China? Isn't it good or not? Number two, what do you think of the future of ASEAN in the context of the relations with the superpowers nowadays? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Very clear, very powerful, very scary.
Well, about One Belt, One Road, or BIR now, it has been there all the time. Only it is not called by that name. You know the land route to Europe is something very old. It's the old Silk Road. Of course, all things must be improved over time. The same thing with the passage through the seas from east to west, from west to east. They pass through the Straits of Malacca and up the South China Sea to reach China, Japan, Korea, and many other places, including countries like Malaysia. So this thing has been there all the time, excepting now that China is very keen to ensure that this passage is not blocked in any way. Somebody might try to stop ships from sailing, examine them. This would be a very negative thing to do. But as far as I'm concerned, this is not new at all. It is given a new name. That is all. Instead of calling it the Silk Road, they call it One Belt, One Road. What's the difference? It's just a means of communication. And communication helps in bringing countries closer to each other and improving trade between them. Before, just imagine driving a camel train from China to Europe. It would take months and months and months. Now, if you build a nice high-speed rail, it will take only one day. So, communication would improve, and therefore trade would also follow. So, these routes, if you keep them open, they will benefit all the countries along the way. Certainly, East and West would become closer together. But don't stop ships, examine them, ask for documents and things like that. That would be very negative. But as long as the seas are free for navigation, One Belt, One Road serves a good purpose. Well, for Cambodia, Cambodia is relatively a small country, and we cannot help being affected by the actions of the big powers, the big countries. They say that when elephants fight, it is the grass which gets trampled. So we may be trampled, not only Cambodia, but Malaysia too. So we, in order to avoid being trampled down by the fighting elephants, we should come together so that we can strengthen ourselves. We cannot do much about them, but we can tell them the truth. There will be occasions when we can make our voices heard in international fora and tell them that their fighting each other is not doing them any good, is not doing the world any good. And certainly for small countries like Cambodia, it's not beneficial at all. That's about all that we can do. We cannot fight them. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, we have so many hands. Let's go to that side here. Yes, the lady there. Yeah, light blue shirt.
Good afternoon, His Excellency Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Thank you for giving me the honor today, and I am a student from the Department of Tourism, third year, and my name is Ling Pagdarina. And my question today is, what good traits may ASEAN cultivate from Malaysia's past experience towards the building of an Asian multicultural identity? Thank you.
Well, you talk about multiculturalism. Well, in Malaysia, of course, we understand this very well. It contributes much towards our own development and prosperity. We see that certain countries are single ethnic, and when they are single ethnic, they find difficulty in growing because they don't have inputs from other sources. The United States, for example, has grown to become the most powerful nation in the world because it opens itself to migration. Lots of people from Europe, from Asia, now migrate to the United States, and these people contribute much towards the development of the United States. I went to the US once and visited one of the big companies. I went to their research laboratory, and I find that the researchers were Chinese, Indians, Koreans, and even Arabs. These people contribute. So in a single ethnic country, there is too much dependence on orthodox methods, ways of doing things. But it is good to have migration. But of course, you mustn't have too much. If the number of migrants exceed the number of the original inhabitants, it does cause a problem. But a small number of very good intellectuals would do much for ourselves. Now, Malaysia, as you know, is a multicultural country, multilingual, multicultural, multiracial, multireligious. We are different completely from each other. But Malaysia has done, I think, relatively well compared to many other single ethnic countries. But the numbers are just right. Now we see migration going into Europe, about 4 million Arabs and Africans, and in America they have erected a wall to stop the South American from going to North America. I think in the end they would lose from lack of new inputs, new ideas, and new abilities. So as far as I'm concerned, being multicultural is positive if the numbers are not too big. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahathir. Let's take some questions. Yeah, in the back there, on that side. Yes, in the back, please. Yeah. One who raised a pen there.
Good afternoon.
Oh. Give it to the, okay. You're vulnerable. There's a Buddhist monk who wished to take a floor.
Good afternoon, His Excellency. So I'm very happy. My name is Chani. I'm a student at Prasanuraja Buddhist University in Cambodia. So my question is, what do you think the number of ASEAN will live in a member like British? Because in the future, British will leave the EU. So this is my question. Thank you very much.
Can you repeat it, please?
What do you think ASEAN member will live like British? Because the British will live in EU.
Thank you, thank you. Comparing ASEAN to EU, the demise of EU after Brexit, would this happen to ASEAN or not?
Well, what happens to EU can also happen to ASEAN. But ASEAN is not as tight a grouping as the European Union. The European Union went too fast. They wanted a single currency, they wanted single laws, they have their own parliament. All these things negate the existence of their members. Because each member has his own identity. They're trying to force a European identity that is common to all. And we find people are able to travel to each other's country, but what happens, of course, is that the poor people move to the rich countries to work there. And as a result, of course, the people in the rich countries find too many people from the poor members of the European Union in their countries, and they don't like that. And so they decide they should exit the European Union. But ASEAN is different. We are merely an association, not a union. An association means we retain our identities. We retain our own ways of doing things, our own policies. But on certain things, we make a common stand. For example, in terms of trade with other regions, we must have a common stand. But in terms of our cultures, we retain our own separate cultures. So if a country were to leave ASEAN, it does not destroy ASEAN, because we are not a close-knit unit. We are a very loose association of countries that believe in certain ideas like peace and prosperity for all. So I don't think it will happen in the ASEAN grouping. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahathir. It's quite reassuring to hear your vision about the future. Let's move to this side. Yes, please. That gentleman there. Yeah. Black shirt. Yeah.
A very good afternoon, His Excellency, and a good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rotayut from the Faculty of Education. Since we have mentioned a lot, and thank you for the response regarding the relation and multicultural things that happened earlier, my question is to follow up on most of the things that happened today. What is the key indicator that we have achieved unified ASEAN?
Yeah, I think common interest, that will keep us together. We feel that we are overwhelmed by powerful countries. And because the powerful countries can easily take on a small country, then we are going to lose out. But by coming together and giving a common stand, then we can preserve or protect ourselves. Let's take the palm oil, for example. There is a move in Europe and also in America to ban palm oil because it competes with soybean oil and other oils that they produce. They accuse us of cutting down our trees to grow palm trees, and therefore we are taking away the habitats of the flora and fauna in these forests. That is not true at all. What we clear is very little compared to what is being burnt in Brazil. In Brazil, whole countries are being burned. You can see that from satellite. That is a more serious problem. But ours, if there are people living in the forest, we look after them. They even go to the universities now. So by being together and understanding the need for us to strengthen ourselves, we will stay together. Only with a united voice can we protect our own interests. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we all hear that you said repeatedly that the future ASEAN is unity, to stay together, stick together. Yes, lady there, please.
Good afternoon, Dr. His Excellency Mohamad Mahathir. My name is Lisinese. I come from Department of English. My question is, 2 years perspective, which country will be the next superpower? And do you think it is good or not to have many superpower in the world? Thank you very much.
They look at you as a crystal ball reader, sir.
There was once a Cold War between the Western powers and Russia. And we thought at that time they should stop this Cold War and let the Western powers win, because the Western powers are great democracies, they are very fair to everyone and all that. And the Cold War ended with the Western powers, the great democracies winning. But unfortunately, when they become great and they are no longer challenged by the Eastern powers, they become big bullies. They make sure that Europe will have no war, but they also made sure that other people fight wars, and they supply the arms, they supply the money. They make a lot of money from the wars. So they look after themselves, but it's not good really for the weaker countries. This is what is happening in the Middle East. They said they want democracy, regime change. And you know what happened when they have regime change. Today, Syria is almost wiped out. Iraq is in a bad state. Yemen is fighting. That is the effect of trying to have regime change among countries which are not ready for democracy. So while the powerful countries look after their own interests, they are not looking after our interests. So we must stand together and confront them in their attempts to destabilize our countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mahathir. In the back there, yes, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister, Dr. Mohamad Mahathir. My name is Minchan Vishna, a second-year student of Department of International Studies. It is an honor to be here, and I have a question regarding to the ASEAN, US, and China. As one of the ASEAN leaders, what do you think about the upcoming ASEAN-US maritime military exercise? And is it a threat to the to China over the South China Sea disputes or not? Thank you.
Can you repeat it, please? If you study international studies, you better be clear with your attention to your statement. Slowly.
As one of the ASEAN leaders, what do you think about the upcoming ASEAN-US military exercise? And is it a threat to China over the South China Sea disputes or not? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, in the first place, this game of having some trial of fighting, I think exercises cost a lot of money and only provoke other people. Now, if you do that in the South China Sea, then the Chinese would feel threatened. What do they do when they feel threatened? They too would want to build bigger ships, stronger naval force, and also send their warships into the area. One day there may be an accident, and then there may be some shooting at each other, and that may become a war. So all this nonsense about exercises and all that is a waste of money. It's provocative. And I think that if they want to do the testing, do it in their own country. Why come here? So that's the answer. China has a right to feel threatened. Now, if China were to have naval exercise off New York, then I think the New Yorkers might not feel so comfortable.
Thank you. We sense that you are a great teacher, Dr. Mahathir. The metaphor used is amazing. Yeah. Is there a physics student in this room? Yes. Physics student? No? Use the microphone.
Yes, I am a computer science student.
We're getting better.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia. I'm really happy to talk with you. Yeah. And my name is Pun May. I am a third year student of Department Computer Science. And today I have a question, and my question is, what are the key areas that need the technology or computer science to develop your country? And can I have one more question?
Yes, because you're the first one asking questions about science and technology. Would you agree to that? Yes.
Yes, because a country develop, it really need the technology to develop. It includes it, yeah. And
Okay.
Can you tell me how is computer science involved in your country development?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we know nowadays there are computers. Life was much easier when there were no computers. But when you have this new equipment, you can make use of it in many ways. It depends upon you. You know, because of ease of communication and speed of communication, then companies like Apple, like Microsoft, find that now they can give information at a faster rate in greater numbers than before. Before you have to go to the library, you have to look through the list to find where the information is, and that takes hours. Now, by pressing one button, you get all the information. So once you get information like that, you can make use of the information for all kinds of things. For example, if you want to buy something in New York, you can just press a button, look at the illustration, decide to buy, send a message, and they will send the thing to you, provided you pay through your telephone again. So ease of doing business is one of the advantages of the development of computers. Beyond that, of course, is the spread of knowledge, where before you need to go to the university to learn how to make an atom bomb. Now you can make an atom bomb just by looking at the computer and blow up this whole world. So it depends upon you, really. All instruments are good, but in the hands of bad people, they become bad. I always tell people that a knife can be used to carve beautiful things, but a knife can also be used for stabbing people to death. The choice is yours. The computer is also like that. You know, nowadays there are people who access computers illegally, who put in fake news, fake messages. All these things depend upon us. We have a good instrument that it can improve our life, that can enrich us, but used wrongly, it will destroy us. Thank you.
I think Dr. Mahathir deserves a round of applause for his energy. It's been 1 hour now, and despite that, Dr. allowed me and to moderate for 15 more minutes. Okay? Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Okay, wow. I think 15 minutes not enough. How about 3 more hours? Okay. One in the back there, far in the back row. Yes. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Hello. Thank you. First of all, I would like to say good afternoon, Dr. Mohamad. Yes, Dr. Mohamad and ladies and gentlemen here. My name is Pani. I am from Department of Mathematics.
Yes, please. Mathematics can think. Mathematician can think.
Mathematics, yeah. I always think about three main issues in Cambodia, like politics, stability, education, and economic. But now let me show you 2 main issues in Cambodia: education and politics. Many youth, I believe that a country can be developed because of youth that involved. But in Cambodia, there are many youth that I can say they give up from school and they involved with drug, heroin or alcohol. So that I can say it's a bad situation for Cambodian youth. And one more thing is they don't brave enough to spread out their ideas to public through politics issue. I would like to know your recommend that what should we deal with all that issue that you can recommend to Cambodian youth and Cambodian government. Thank you.
Well, it is a big choice for young people. Young people are idealistic. They see that things should be beautiful, but they are not. And they ask why. They cannot understand why their country is behind others. And they feel unhappy about it. But these are things that they cannot, at the moment, do much about it. They need to be older, and when they take the reins of government, then they can put their ideals to test. And unfortunately, they will find that it's not as easy as they thought when they were young. That is the problem. But we need young people to be idealistic, to want to see the best of things, to want to see everything is fine, everything is beautiful. But achieving those things is not easy. But having those ideas are good because then they will bring changes to the whatever it is that they feel need to be changed. In Malaysia, of course, youth are very active, but we realize that and we decide that the age for voting should be reduced from 21 to 18. Because we think that even at 18, they are already mature enough to be able to understand the situation and to maybe think up of solutions to the problems of society. So that is what youth should always be, that they have great ideals and they should strive to achieve their ideals, and even if they fail, that they should not be disheartened, should not give up, but should keep on trying. Now, with regard to drugs, well, this is a universal problem. We have this problem in Malaysia too. The trouble is now drugs, where before you get drugs from plants, like the opium plants and cannabis and things like that. Now in the laboratories, they can come up with new chemicals which are equally, if not more, dangerous. So the problem with us is that we do not discipline ourselves. Why don't you take drugs? It's because you know it is bad. Not because there is a policeman nearby. Not because there is a law. You don't take it because you believe it is bad for you. So the answer to dealing with drug problem is to teach our children when they are young of what is right and what is wrong. That drug taking is bad, is going to do a lot of harm to you, and therefore you must reject it yourself. Like many of us, we are not taking drugs. I'm not taking drugs. I don't even smoke. You see, but this is my own decision, not to take drugs, not to smoke. And it is a very strong resistance towards doing what is wrong. So we have to build a culture that rejects drug taking and even smoking, so that we will not be, we will not suffer because of taking drugs. We can have laws, we can have punishment. In Malaysia, we have death sentence for people who deal with drugs, but even then, it still happens. So we need to have a culture that rejects drugs completely because it is bad. Just as you do not steal, not because somebody is not looking, but you don't steal because you know it is bad. So it should be with drugs also. You don't take drugs because it is bad. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Just wait a moment. I see a role there, up there, looking down to us quietly. We should give you a privilege. Any question from the top floor? You must pay those seats. Very expensive to sit up there. No? Okay, in the back there. Yes, please. She's standing up by the mic. Please, go ahead.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. My name is Hasanas. I come from Cambodia Muslim Media Center and I graduate from Royal University of Phnom Penh too. Today I'm so glad to be here to ask a question from my heart to Dr. Mahathir Mohamad.
What is your major?
Khmer literature.
Wow, fantastic. A round of applause.
Yeah, as I see, in Malaysia and Cambodia, we have minority. In Cambodia, have Muslim, Vietnamese, and Khmer, many minorities. And in Malaysia also. So I want you to sharing about your leading. How do you lead your country to be peaceful with many minority? Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, in many countries, when people of different races or different religions live there, often they fight each other. Bosnia-Herzegovina was a part of the Republic of Yugoslavia. At that time, they were living at peace with each other. But when they became independent, they fought each other, they killed each other. Some of them know each other. They were friends before, but they fight and kill. And in some countries, like in Myanmar, unfortunately, when they became independent, they expelled the Indians, and now they are expelling the Rohingyas. But in Malaysia, when we became independent, there were already a lot of non-indigenous people. The indigenous people are the Malays. They are Muslims. But we have always had Chinese and Indians living in the Malay states. And we accept them. And when we became independent, we accepted them as citizens of our country. They contribute towards the development of the country as much as the others. So there is no reason why we should fight against them. So we accepted these minorities and we give them a place in the politics of the country. Every government of Malaysia would have Malays, Chinese, and Indians in the government. Because of that, the country is at peace. Because we treat the minorities as if they are people of the same citizenship, and therefore they deserve to be given all the privileges of citizens. And as a result, there was peace and the country was able to develop. But if you are so very, where you cannot accept people simply because their race is different, their religion is different, then of course you are going to fight each other. And when you fight each other, you destroy the whole country. So that is again your choice. You can make a decision to fight and you will destroy your country and you get nothing out of it. Or you can make a decision to work together and then the country will be peaceful and it can grow and develop. So this too strong a feeling simply because of the differences of race or religion is not something that is good for us. We accept that some people are Hindus, they are Buddhists, they are Christians, and they are Muslims. All of them are there in Malaysia. If you go to Malaysia, you see churches, mosques, Buddhist temple, Hindu temples. They're all there. Of course, some extremists do not like this, but they are a small number, and we can deal with them. But the large majority of the people in Malaysia accept that their country is multi-religious, multi-racial, multilingual, multicultural, and therefore these are not things that will cause them to fight each other. So I hope that in all countries, in particular in Myanmar, for example, what's wrong with treating the minorities well? Then there will be no damage to your own country, no fighting and no damage. The returns for being able to accept minorities of other races is very good for all of us. Because peace is what we want. We reject violence and terrorism, and only with this rejection will the country be peaceful and therefore able to develop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahathir. So much wisdom in your thought. Now we come to the end of this forum. We should take two more questions, one on the side and one on the right side. There's so many hands, I don't know what to do, Dr. Mahathir. Would you like to pick them yourself? Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. My name is T. Supanyarot. I'm currently a junior at Institute of Foreign Languages and American University of Phnom Penh. So it is my great honor to have one quick question. So my question is, what can we expect to see from your 3-day official visit to the Kingdom of Cambodia? Thank you.
Wow, fantastic. What a question.
Well, I came here because it is the custom of newly elected leaders of ASEAN countries to visit all the other ASEAN countries. So after I was elected as Prime Minister, I have visited Indonesia, Brunei, Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, what else? But this is the first time I get to visit Cambodia. And I like to visit Cambodia because I know Cambodia very well. I have visited this country 3 times before. And in many ways, our relationship was very good. I had encouraged Malaysian business people to come to Cambodia to help to invest in the country, create jobs, develop the country. And this they have done. But I have also warned them that when you go to a country, you must respect the customs of the country, the laws of the country. I hope they have done that until now. But relationship with neighbors is very good. And Cambodia is a good neighbor. We believe in a slogan called, prosper thy neighbor. Help to make your neighbor prosperous in many ways. Why? Because when a neighbor is prosperous, there will be less trouble. They will not, their poor people would not run away from that country to our country. And when a neighbor is prosperous, we can trade and make money for both sides, both the new country and Malaysia will gain from good relations. So that is why I'm here in Cambodia. I should have come earlier, but I had to visit many other countries and lots of work at home. But now I have this opportunity. I have come to Cambodia to strengthen the relationship with Cambodia. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahathir. I think I can say that on behalf of the royal government of Cambodia and on behalf of the people of Cambodia, we are so grateful that you take so much passion and energy to come here and to promote Cambodia. It's a great place for investment for businessmen in Malaysia. And I may have a special request because I'm a scientist. Please send more scientists to do some research with science and technology is yet to be established. And we know that without your vision in science technology in the last 30 years, Malaysia would not have been where you are now. So, okay, last question on this side. Dr. Mahathir, it's your choice, please.
Yes, thank you, His Excellency. My name is T. Janarat. I'm from Department of Education. My question to you is, would you mind sharing for Cambodia, in the member of the ASEAN, of your presented pros and cons of foreign direct investment, like Indian investment, specifically Chinese direct investment. And to further that questions, what measure and means have you done and have been doing in order to maximize the benefits as well as maintain the social security for your country at that moment and at now? Thank you.
Well, you know, Malaysia was before a very poor country when we became independent. Per capita income was very, very low. A lot of people had no jobs. And so we decided to open up new plantations for pioneers, for people to work in plantations so that they can make a living for themselves. But plantation requires land, and we don't have enough land. So we decided to industrialize. But we have no expertise, no technology, no capital, no knowledge about running big companies, and no knowledge about the market. So how could we industrialize? Realizing that, we decided to invite foreigners to come to our country and invest in productive capacities. Our aim was to create jobs for our people, mainly jobs for our people, because our people need jobs. So the government So the government was willing to forgo taxes. We don't collect taxes from FDIs, foreign direct investment, so as to be attractive. And they came in droves to Malaysia to set up factories, employ many of our people, and produce goods for our own consumption and for export. And we became rich because of that. But the interest of Malaysia is safeguarded. We want the workers to be Malaysians because we want to create jobs for our people. And they did that. We want them to bring in the money. Inflow of money is always good for a country. We want new expertise in doing business and in technologies. These foreign direct investors bring in all this. As a result of foreign direct investment, eventually our people learned how to manufacture goods, how to run big factories, how to export to world markets, etc. And because they learned these things, now we are not too dependent upon foreign direct investment. We can expect our own people to set up factories, produce goods, market the goods domestically, and also export and enrich the country. So our interest is looked after by foreign direct investment. However, we cannot afford to have one country dominate all the FDIs. So we are careful to source FDIs from very many companies. Today, the Chinese are very rich. They have the technology. They would like to come to Malaysia. We welcome them, but to a certain extent, we have to exercise some control so that they do not dominate our economy. So we look after our interests, but we also look after the interests of the foreign investors so that they will always want to come to Malaysia and help to grow our economy and enrich our country. So foreign direct investment is not bad, but because like all things, we have to control the growth of foreign direct investment. Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you, Tun Dr. Mahathir. We come at the closing part of this open dialogue. Would you allow one last question from your humble moderator? What is the secret of your astonishing good health?
Well, it is not a secret. It's something very simple. If you escape certain fatal diseases, then you should live a long life. But to live a long life, you do have to be a little bit careful about what you eat and all that. Because today, sometimes there's so much food around that when the food tastes good, you like to eat too much. When you eat too much, your stomach grows bigger. When your stomach grows bigger, you have to eat more in order to assuage your hunger. And the stomach grows even bigger. And when you take too much food, you get fat. And when you get fat, the heart has to work harder to pump the blood. The liver has to work harder. And the other organs also have to work harder. Where they could last for 100 years, because they overwork, they last only 50 years. So it's very simple. Please don't get fat.
Thank you. So please, the last word, Tun Dr. Mahathir, listen to the doctor in the house. So with this, Tun Dr. Mahathir, is a great honor for me to moderate. I think it's a great privilege for all of us in this room. We have senior policymaker, the diplomatic corps, student, faculty members. I think that the last 1 hour and a half, almost 2 hours, has been a great learning journey for us, learning from your great life. May we wish you more good time to be able to serve Malaysia and the region, and for the betterment of humankind. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for His Excellency Tun Mahathir, Prime Minister of Malaysia and Minister attached to the Prime Ministers.
I thought it was over.
The Royal University of Phnom Penh, through its academic council, represented by its rector, His Excellency Dr. Chechili, is privileged to confer an honorary fellowship to His Excellency Dr. Tun Mahathir Mohamad. It is my honor to deliver this laudatory speech, after which Dr. Chechili will present the diploma to you. Your CV reveals that you have received at least 20 honorary degrees. This large number confirms that many universities across the globe recognize your outstanding achievement over decades of dedication to the betterment of the world. Through your tireless work and commitment, you have succeeded in designing and implementing impactful policy in economic and industrial development that had led to the remarkable modernizations of Malaysia. Your most stunning success is your political comeback after years of retirement. Here again, you are on the board to deliver a shining prosperity of Malaysia. Your exemplary career to cure political, social, and economical diseases of Malaysia represent a deep and inspiring model for all of us to follow. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now to call upon His Excellency Dr. Chechili, University Rector, to please proceed the stage to present an honorary fellowship to His Excellency Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia. And in token of appreciation of this special visit, our University Rector also has some small gift to His Excellency Tun, Prime Minister, as well. This is a special boost from Dr. Tun Mahathir Mohamad, Doctor in the House. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this comes to a conclude of our special dialogue with His Excellency Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia. I thank you very much for sharing us your time and especially your tremendous leaderships. May I wish you a healthy and please have a pleasant stay in the Kingdom of Cambodia, Kingdom of Wonders. Ladies and gentlemen, the departure of His Excellency Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, Prime Minister of Malaysia.